funny that Magikarp is considered to be a pathetic excuse for a Pokemon, and yet we all go searching for one, because apparently we as the players are the only ones that know they evolve into Gyarados. Oh no, Lord Pineapple, I didn't call you pathetic. The Pokedex in Pokemon Ruby and Omega does. Would a Pitcha Berry make you feel any better? I still love you. Poor Lord Pineapple. He used to have googly eyes until my nephew bit them off. Well, in any case, Magikarp tend to get pushed around by strong enough currents according to the Pokemon Crystal Dex. In its Pearl Dex, it stated that even slow-moving currents sweep it away, and yet they can be found just about everywhere. Magikarp are weak as fighters, I suppose, but hardy enough to survive even in the dirtiest of lakes. In fact, all they do is splash. I guess the dex doesn't count the moves Tackle or Flail. Don't worry, Lord Pineapple. You'll have googly eyes again someday. Nearly all the Pokedex entries on Magikarp talk about it being weak, that it can splash so high, and yet the move does nothing. I found out that in its Heart Gold and Pokemon Stadium entry, remember that game? I do! Magikarp can't jump more than 7 feet. And then you've got other games like Black and White saying that if it lives long enough, it can leap mountains. Mountains! Apparently its splashing makes it easy prey. Lol. I lost a Magikarp to a Pidgeotto in the Magikarp jump game. Rest in peace, Romeo. And then you have Magikarp's evolution, the infamous Gyarados. Gyarados goes on a destructive rampage, laying waste to everything, and will only calm when everything around it has been destroyed. So says the Black and White Dex entries. And according to Pokemon Emerald, it also appears when war breaks out. It even laid waste to villages, towns, and cities. So, what made this pathetic fish into a destructive entity? Its evolution was so intense that it caused it to go violent, so says Omega Ruby. But now, let's take a look at these Pokemon's design and where its origins may lay. Starting with Magikarp. Its name origin is a combination of magic and carp. Magic here was supposed to be ironic due to it being incredibly weak. But think about it, the word magic still fits because it transforms into a freaking dragon! Its second part of its name is carp, for obvious reasons. It's a kind of fish, more specifically an Asian carp. They are famous for their ability to jump several feet out of the water, which segues nicely into the legend of the Dragon Gate. There's a story of a group of carp that goes something like this. There was a stream full of carps that the currents would push around. Sound familiar already, right, Lord Pineapple? Well, there was a group of 1,000 carp that would swim against the current until eventually they reached a tall waterfall. Many of the carp turned away. They just gave up. But a few stayed and tried to jump the fall. For 100 years they would continue to try until eventually they reached the top. There the gods were moved by their perseverance that they rewarded them by transforming them into regal dragons. Some may have heard slightly different versions, but they seem to climax the same way. Now, Gyarados does seem to have the serpentine-like shape of a Chinese dragon. It could also be the reason for its part water typing, since the Chinese dragon is associated with water and rain in some stories. But Gyarados doesn't share the same benevolence as its draconic influence. I mean, it is the atrocious Pokemon after all. What's with that? Mr. Gracie, don't eat Lord Pineapple. Don't. Well, you could say that Gyarados has a sea serpent-like design. Wait, that makes sense. Its behavior is more like that of a sea serpent, or sometimes known as the Leviathan. Some of the strongest connections I could find for the violent behavior of Gyarados is in, if I did my research correctly, the Hebrew Bible, where God fought this powerful and destructive water beast, aka the Leviathan. This image is also used as a metaphor for a powerful opponent. The Leviathan was often associated with chaos, like, excuse my pronunciation, Jormungand. Jormungand? Did I say that right? The mythological Norse serpent that encircles in the oceans of the earth. It is so long that it has bitten its own tail. When Jormungandr releases its tail, it is said that Ragnarok will begin. The end of the world. Dun dun dun. Another similar sea serpent, or Leviathan, if you'd like to continue with the name. I like saying it. Leviathan. Leviathan. We have Tiamat in ancient Babylonian religion. She was the visual embodiment of chaos, and was sometimes depicted as a sea serpent. Crazy, huh? There seems to be a quirk with Gyarados, accumulating its dex entries. It appears when there is war or something bad going on like a storm, only to lay waste. In its Pokemon Sun Dex entry, however, it states a town had enraged Gyarados, resulting in its total destruction. Remember I mentioned that it laid waste to villages? Well, what if they too had enraged it? Interestingly, in Christianity, the Leviathan will be one of the beasts to rise from the, quote, the waters of chaos, unquote, to devour the damned on Judgment Day. I guess similar to the towns and villages and cities that Gyarados destroyed. And what of its Mega Evolution? Well, its Sun Dex entry also tells us this. Mega Evolution also affects its brain, leaving no other function except its destructive instinct to burn everything to cinders. Sounds like Judgment Day to me. Perhaps that's why Gyarados' typing goes from water flying to water dark. Destruction is all it knows. What's that? Gyarados is water flying? Yeah, apparently. It's part flying type. The typing may have taken influence from Koinobori, a kind of windsock flown in Japan on Children's Day. I mean, I see it better on the Gyarados Mega, design-wise. For my final notes, I'd like to look at Gyarados' name origin. And forgive me for butchering any pronunciations, starting with the first part of the name. The first part of Gyarados' name could have derived from either Gyakyatsu, meaning massacre or slaughter, or Gyakyo, adversity, meaning misfortune or difficulties, like perhaps what Gyarados had to go through as a Magikarp. In the middle part of its name we have Arashi, meaning storm, or could also be Arasoi, meaning conflict, maybe referring to how Gyarados appears during war, like in its dex entries. Woo! This name origin is pretty crazy. And finally, dos, that according to the Bulbapedia is an onomatopoeia for piercing flesh, apparently. Odd. For those of you who don't know what an onomatopoeia is, it is the written version of sound effects, like in comic books. For the Waterfall Mist, I'm using white acrylic. Yes, this Magikarp is pink. It's my favorite color in that Magikarp jump game. I named my first pink Magikarp Gypsy Danger. Acrylic is also pretty good for covering up a couple of mistakes here and there. Just make sure you mix the right color. Female Magikarp and Gyarados have white whiskers, while the males have yellow on Magikarp and blue on Gyarados. Well, now we know, right? Thank you for watching. I hope we all learned something about the Magikarp evolutionary line. I know I did. If you'd like to see more, don't forget to subscribe and let me know in the comments what you learned, what you already knew, and maybe something I might have missed. Until next time, illustrators, trainers, and coffee goers, stay cozy!